Hey, this is Adam Post. I am the creator of College of the Dead, publisher of more than 1,000 comics. I did count them up. There's a lot of comics. I had to stop. I published too many comics. I had to stop it. But tonight, it's really a privilege for me. My good friend Clint Stoker, who has the great Sweetcast channel that everybody knows and loves, is agreed a week ago to set aside some time tonight so that we could talk about how he built his YouTube channel, what he learned building his YouTube channel, because Clint's Sweetcast channel is a disciplined effort. It's a great example of like what a perfect student would be when the professor told the class of tens of thousands there was one guy at least who was listening, and that was Clint Stoker. I mean, I don't mean to over compliment you even, but the truth of it is you've done like nearly exactly what Ethan Van Sciver and John Malin have recommended. Cecil thinks that we should all be drunk all the time, I think. So don't do what Cecil says, except he lives a really fun, great life. And I hope I'm gonna be on his channel soon, I think. But the point of it is you were super disciplined. You worked and listened and got your base together. And you'd even told me, because we were friends before, like you wanted to make sure you had your base in place before you went on Ethan's show. Yeah. You did your mailing list. You did terrific preparation. So thank you so much, Clint, for agreeing to be on the show and talking about how you built your channel. Would you like to just start off talking a little bit? I'm going to go ahead and I'll put your channel up.
Sure.
While we're talking.
Yeah. So I don't know. You want a little bit of history, I guess.
Yeah, a little bit of history. Yeah. Like, how did you first get involved with the Comicsgate group and think to yourself, like, all right, I hear what these guys are saying. Let me see if I can do this.
Yeah. So I'd actually wanted to start a YouTube channel for years. I always thought it'd be fun. So it's something that I had thought about a lot, but never did it, mainly because I was like, I need a microphone and, a few things.
Yeah, I know that feeling too. Like, where am I going to get a headset from?
Right. Yeah. And then it's like, what am I going to talk about? And so I started my YouTube channel. Everybody gives me a longer time frame than is accurate. This channel existed, but it was called something else. I don't even remember. So I renamed it to Sweetcast because I wanted it to be flexible, and I don't know why. I honestly didn't see things going as far as they did. So in retrospect, I might have named the channel something different, but now it's just part of it. So,
it's a great name. It's a great name. Yeah, everybody knows it.
Yeah. So so I started talking about, like, my really early videos were all about just politics and the culture war in general. And so like a big thing toward the beginning was the Brett Kavanaugh hearings. And I talked about those. I talked about Alex Jones and like all the stuff that was in the news cycle, about a year ago, actually, in September. And so then, I didn't get any views or anything. I just kind of playing around with it. And then I heard, because I was looking for videos, I rediscovered your boy Zach, Diversity in Comics. I had watched his channel a little bit on and off, like a year before, I think it was, and when his channel was nowhere near as big as it was, as big as it became. So I just went down the rabbit hole and started watching. Like, I watched the Comedy Central thing. I watched as much as I could, and then I discovered Nick Rekieta, and he was explaining some of the lawsuit stuff that was going on. And I discovered Ethan's channel, and so I started getting into it, and I felt just compelled. I don't know how else to say it, but I wanted to make a video and start. I wanted to start putting my voice in there because I know how difficult it is to get into comics. I've been trying for years. And so to hear, that Mark Waid was interfering when your boy Zach had a publishing deal lined up, he was ready to go. That infuriated me. And so that's when I made my first video about Mark Waid, and I had like 30 views, maybe something like that. And I thought, wow, this is amazing. I can keep doing this. So from there, it just started becoming important to me that I watched what other people in the niche were doing with their videos and what they were talking about. And I will say the first 100 subscribers were really, really difficult to get. It was a grind. That was before like Ethan Van Sciver ever noticed me before, anything else. And I was just making videos daily because I've read several articles before on how to really grow a YouTube channel, and they all pretty much are saying the same kinds of things. And one of those is you got to make content consistently. And I looked at PewDiePie, for example, and he always does a daily video. So that's what was my goal, just daily video, daily video. I got to 100 subscribers in a month and a half, I guess. And it was crazy. I didn't sleep. I was up always late trying to research topics and make videos and re-recording it because I didn't like how I sounded, And so
I love how you sound. You're Clint. You got that Sweetcast vibe, baby.
Well, you know how you hear your own voice,
Oh yeah, yeah. In making my videos now.
Yeah.
Right. So in approaching, I want you to finish your story first before we get off on that. I would love for you to finish it. So you got up to 200 subs in about a month and a half.
That was 100 subs. Yeah.
And 100 subs.
And then sometime the timeline blurs together a little bit, but
of course.
Yeah, I started showing up in live streams and just making it a point to be seen. And so I would make comments and, that kind of stuff. And
not even on live streams, but you were in the comment room.
Just in the comment. And I wanted to see if people would reject me. I don't know. I was always worried about that. But people were really nice to me, Comicsgate. Like I had a really great experience getting into it. And so
doesn't it almost feel like you go into like some really ethnic family wedding or something, and like they're all having a good time, and you're like, hey, they seem like they're having fun over there. You walk near there and they're all like dancing, and it's like, hey. It's like, hey, come on, let's have some fun. Like all the comics they bring you. I'm like, why are you guys so nice? Isn't someone going to make fun of me in some way? Like, or isn't someone going to be mean or be restrictive of like you're like, you're not in our clique or but there's none of that.
Yeah. Well, so
anybody that doesn't like you in Comicsgate doesn't like all of Comicsgate or doesn't like, quote, the leaders of Comicsgate or whatever, right? It's not you. It's never you as an individual.
Yeah, that was the part of it was that I went in and I read all the articles, all the hit pieces, and so I know just from seeing, news media that you have the story that the media tells and then you have the truth. And so I saw what the media was saying and I wanted to see what the truth was, but I was still a little skittish. But yeah, people were nice. They were accepting. And my experience was actually really good. Not that everything's perfect, the more of a profile you get, people notice you more, but people were nice. And then I remember watching one of Ethan's streams and I made a comment and he was like, oh, Sweetcast is here. I watched one of your videos, and he mentioned me and that was so surreal.
Yeah.
And so
really, it's really cool when he mentions you.
That's the first time I got a boost of subscribers just from him mentioning me. And so that was cool. And then, I started getting to know more people in and around Comicsgate. And I opened a Twitter account. I wasn't really on Twitter before. I had an account, but I'd never get on it. Twitter has a lot of faults, but it was actually really useful, I have to say, just with networking with people.
Peter sending love. Want to make sure you saw it.
All right. Yeah. And yeah, Pete's one of those people too. Like I don't know that I would have been able to really get in contact with him without getting on Twitter. So that's just one good example.
Twitter's a great way to communicate. There's all sorts of drama. You can be as involved or not as you want to. Yeah. You obviously keep a super low profile with any kind of drama. You're not involved, which is probably the ideal way to be. Yeah, it's a great way to be able to reach people and to also know what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, that was all part of it. The rest of it's just a blur. Like I think the word you used was discipline, and that's a great descriptor, because that's what it was. Is just I need to make a video, and then also being disciplined by looking at the analytics, because you can see when you've got something that people are interested in, and you should do more of that. And so that has always been kind of my thing, is try to do what people like. And it didn't always make sense why they liked certain kinds of videos and not others. But I don't know. It's just kind of all part of the process.
Very interesting. Yeah. Now, when you go to make a video now, and I'm getting involved in this too, I'm starting to see like like with this is a live stream. You know, to me, I feel like it's important for the comics community and for self-employed people and people trying to make things to have an educational resource, you know, something they could go to. And if they can hear how Sweetcast was able to build up his channel, if they learn one or two things about that, and take one or two things away from that, that could save them 6 months, or it could save them from giving up on doing something.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, so if someone is able to benefit that way, I love doing that, and that's where I like to do these educational shows. You know, everything you and I know about making comics. We had a great show, and Peter helped us out on that, and it's one of our other shows on my channel, and talking about everything from pre-press to scheduling to dealing with creative people and things like that. And it's only an hour, and it's a quickie course. So you know, thinking about formats is a big deal with live streams. What do you want to have in your live stream? And then, of course, YouTube will not share your live streams the way they might share a 10-minute video on a hot topic.
Yeah.
And they might throttle your channel, meaning slow it down in general as well, if you have that. So in terms of approaching formats, or in terms of approaching what you do with your channel, is it like this is Clint's take on the world in certain segments?
Yeah. So I read this good article about how to make YouTube content. And I looked at other YouTubers to get some inspiration. This sounds terrible, but it's true. I looked at the Quartering, you know, Jeremy.
Sure.
Yeah. And I thought, I see his videos all the time, and no offense, I don't think he's that interesting. Like, but I thought if he can do that with just being pretty regular, you know, and not like super over the top, and you know, I'm thinking of PewDiePie on the other end of the spectrum.
Well, PewDiePie is like, he's fascinating, and yeah, there are a couple of YouTube personalities that, you know, make me look sedate.
Right.
Yeah, you know, they're young and they're wild, and you know.
Yeah, I thought, man, if he can do that, then I can. And so the thing that I read was that, like, if you're funny, be funny. If you're not funny, you can't just make yourself be funny. You know, if for nothing else, at the very least, be useful. And so that has been my goal, is making videos that I think would be useful to people. And some of that is like, you know, news stories that are going on, and I give my take.
So number one is maybe just in approaching this.
Yeah.
I'm a boiler down of things. You've known me a while, right?
Yep.
Number one is we do not waste people's time. Now, if we can highly entertain them and it's junk food content, like it's just incredibly fun, you know, and silly or whatever, that's fine. That's not a waste of time. But if not, as you're saying, like if you're going to get points across, useful, good information, news that's relevant.
Right. And that's, I think, anybody, not necessarily that you can do it in comics, in the comic niche. If you don't feel, a lot of it is just figuring out what you are capable of providing. It's going to be different than what I do. But yeah, if you can be useful, the algorithm will help you a lot. So.
And when you're talking about like picking subjects and things, so you do comics, you do things on writing, you do things, you that article on Zoe Quinn, you know, even on screen now, you're doing stuff that's timely and stuff that you're very interested in. And I guess the point of that is that you sort of always have a relevant voice in whatever you're talking about.
Yeah, you want to hit trending topics. I try to experiment, and so I'll sprinkle in other things that I just want to talk about. And those don't always, like the writing videos don't do well if I just talk about writing. And that's because I think most people aren't out looking actively on how do I write comics on any given day, but they are like, oh, I heard, for example, here, Zoe Quinn. I heard about Zoe Quinn. I want to like see what's going on. The Indiegogo stuff that has done pretty well for me, and I think part of that is just the audience that I've built up. People kind of start to expect that, and so I talk about crowdfunding a lot, and the comic book industry, and I just think my subscribers really like that kind of stuff, and so I try to make sure I hit that. So yeah, and then another one that was a surprise topic that I love to talk about, but it did so well. It was about a month ago. I did a video on boys reading comics, and that video has like
I saw that.
25,000 views now. Yeah. So that one really, like, people took that. I gained a lot of subscribers this past month just because of that video. That
Isn't that
one
interesting?
video. Yeah.
Very interesting. And then you could kind of do a part 2 of that
Yeah.
if you had ideas for it. Do you feel like you do a series? Do you have any, I didn't realize it, but I'm starting to develop in terms of a series of things like this, everything we know about relevant to the niche that we're in.
Right.
So everything we know about developing a YouTube channel, and it may not make anybody a billionaire, but at least you're telling people what you know. I'm happy to tell people what I know, but the everything we know about is something we might do on a semi-regular basis. It wasn't something we naturally. Do you have repeating titles of videos that you try like that? Maybe appropriate for a playlist?
Yeah, I experimented more with that earlier on, and it's something that I need to do more of, because the way that it should work, if you really want the algorithm to help you, is you hit one of those good videos, like I did the one on boys reading comics, boys being abandoned basically in comics. What you'd want to do is actually say, oh, this video has really got legs. You can see the normal spike of views. It keeps getting get more spikes that come up and down. And so I should have made like 2 more videos on that exact same topic. So
you would just sort of say more about the same thing.
Yeah. And for me, that was hard because I was like, I don't know what else to say, but it's where you got to get creative. And I kind of, just because of, was busy at the time and things. Mm-hmm. And so I really missed that, the
opportunity, you think?
Yeah, I do.
Well, I'll tell you what too, just as a friend, I see this in Comicsgate all the time. I have questions for people. Some people have questions for me, or I see someone struggling. I tell them what I know. But you got me if you ever want it, to be like, all right, I already just did this video. I don't have anything else I think I can mine out of this. Do you have any ideas? And you got them. I tell you what the hell I know, just same way you do for me about anything else. So I think we should do that too. We should rely on each other to help build each other up and do anything we can,
Yeah. And that's actually another great point. When you're making videos about other people in your niche, it actually does help your growth. So for example, like,
okay. So I should make a Sweetcast video. Well, this is a Sweetcast video, come to think of it.
It is, yeah. But like, you can make on anybody. I've made one on John Malin pretty recently. I did one on the Brightwisers, and their name is in the title. And they're in my niche that I want to be, noticed in and getting viewers in. Sure. And so I think if you like John Malin, you might like my channel too. So I make a video about John Malin, and of course it's going to be clickbaity, and you're going to have a great thumbnail that people want to see like what it is. But I gave my honest opinions on John Malin, which are that I think he's a really good guy and he's an inspiration to me. And so I gave some opinions on his campaign, and that does bring in people in my target niche. So it's not something I do a lot because I think it can be abused. But you make a video about Ethan Van Sciver.
Well, for example, like if something happens with someone that you care about or that you're interested in, like Peter just had. A few of us have been talking about this behind the scenes, and openly, but also behind the scenes. Peter Simeti just had this successful Alternaween comic project where he's giving away, 8,000 comics or whatever the heck it is, and they're going to be, many, many more kids that are getting their first comics or getting their second, and that's the one that really gets them interested in comics, thanks to what Peter is doing just for this one program. And it's really interesting and it's exciting. So just even talking about how people come, new people discovering comics, the magic of Alterna, something like that, that's a good content for a video. And then we could just even talk about, you even just talk about that.
Yeah. And you want, it's hard with the titles are very, very important, and your thumbnails are very, very important. Those are the 2 most important things. So with your titles, you want them to sound really salacious. I've got the one here that you can see on screen that says the IGG gold rush is over.
Yeah, I saw that. I'm like, oh, I wonder what he's saying about that.
Yeah, and so that works. It's hard to do all the time and be consistently good at it. But what you want to do is have a title that makes people curious and they want to see what you have to say about it, but you can't be too, and I've done this a couple times. If you get
too pushy.
Yeah, if you get too clickbaity, people will thumbs down your video and they'll let you know that you're, like, I unsubbed because this title was too inaccurate. So you want it to be interesting and to pique their interest, but you still want it to be accurate and tied to the video. So, and that's hard, but it's so important.
But there are going to be people too, and I'm sure you've seen this. There are going to be people too. Hey, speaking of which, everybody, you better subscribe to my channel. We're building this thing up.
That's right. Yeah.
Clint is my friend, but he's not going to keep coming back to my channel unless I break 1,000 subs in the next couple of weeks. That's the way it goes.
You got to have set rules.
It's like, listen, Adam, I like you, but maybe I'll be on with a panel. I mean, maybe you can get Peter to come on, then I'll come on too. I don't know. No, Clint is great, and it's just great. It's great to know you. Clint has never said anything remotely like that. But I have not good thumbnails, I think, and some of my titles are not so good either. But the thing is I guess you see what works and what doesn't work. I did one, and this is maybe my most views, called Spider-Man Back at Marvel if Apple. Okay, I hope this doesn't play. I'm clicking on it. Let me see if I get. Okay, well, Spider-Man Back at Marvel if Apple buys Sony. No, nope. Here's why.
Yeah.
And then I explained it. And I think the thing too is that we forget when we start, especially when we start out early, we forget what our expertise are. So when I was talking to that, when I do an article about something like that, if it's business entertainment, then I'm going to talk about, like, well, I was on the board of directors of a small public company like that made comics the film, Platinum Studios, and they did Cowboys and Aliens, and so it was a real thing. And I know some things about business, and like, no, there is absolutely, regardless of what the contract says with Marvel, there's absolutely no way that Sony would allow itself to lose the Spider-Man rights if ownership changed in the company. They would do it as a spin-off, and there have been multiple times over the last years, especially since 2013, 2015, there have been companies that have tried to get Sony to split into multiple units, and never was it discussed that they would lose control of the Spider-Man rights, because it's absolutely inconceivable. It's just that the entertainment unit would be separated from the electronics unit. But the point is, if you do have it, I don't know how many times, like, you'll do videos. If you do a video, like, if you completely mess up, you'll stop. But if you make a couple of mistakes in a pre-recorded video, you just kind of do the video, right? You try to do it as a one take.
Yeah, and I cut my videos up a little bit. So if I do the whole thing in one take most of the time. Sometimes I just scrap it and start over, but I'll usually do it in one take, and then I'll go through where I will end up pausing, or I need to think for a minute or something like that, or I'll misspeak. And so if I do that, I'll just pause for a second and then get back in on my train of thought. And so I actually go back and edit out those sections just to keep things a little snappy, so it doesn't bore people too much. And I don't know, I think that works. It's more effort for sure. But everyone's different. I think I'm not super great on live streams, I'll admit. I've gotten a lot better.
Really?
Yeah, it's been tough for me. It depends a lot on who I'm talking with.
Okay.
I'm really comfortable with you.
Oh, thanks.
But sometimes I just lose my train of thought, or it's just, I don't know. I don't do as well on my feet. I like to think about it ahead of time and kind of prepare what I want to say. And so, and
you're hung up on making sense all the time. You just got to let that go, Clinton. Be more like me.
Yeah.
Just say stuff. You put on a nice show, and you really want to make sure you're delivering something good to people all the time.
Yeah, and that's just how people are accustomed, I think, to how my content is. I've really made a big go of trying to make live streams better. Some people are great. Nick Ricade is a perfect example. He almost exclusively does live streaming, and he does not suffer on views at all. He does great. And he probably makes a lot more money for his views just because of the super chats. So if you can do live streams really well, you can be extremely successful. I have not yet figured out live streams. I do so much better with the pre-recorded videos.
When you say not figured out live streams, that's one concept. And when you say you do better with the recorded videos, but when you say not figured out live streams, you mean in terms of how it fits for who you are as a creator,
Yeah.
and yeah.
Yeah. So for me, how am I going to be entertaining? How am I going to hold people's interest in a live stream long enough that they're going to come back? You know what I mean? For each and every live stream and want to watch them. And so, yeah, I just haven't figured out my metrics just prove that.
Yeah, I've heard you talk about formats sometimes, and I think
Yeah.
it's useful to have these kind of conversations because
Yeah.
we're all facing the same sort of things. So I think we can help each other with it. One of the things is, expectations. When you're like, all right, well, I haven't figured this out. I want to figure this out. I don't want to disappoint anybody when I'm doing it. You come up with realistic expectations when you're approaching doing something first, which is, all right, well, what's the function of the channel in general on a large scope? And then then what is the function of the individual pre-recorded videos, and then what's the function of the live streams? So before you can answer what the function is of the channel, remember, wanting to get into publishing comics, not being able to, and then, all right, you started this YouTube channel because you followed the examples of other people who were successful. You went through iterations to see what would work. You built up a successful audience enough that you could launch your great comic DOWNCAST, which I am a proud backer of, and proud of you that you're
Oh,
on
thank you.
schedule for it, man. Very, very exciting. It's coming out
Yeah.
soon. And so that it works to have a YouTube channel as a given. That your pre-recorded videos are cool and they really have helped you build up a bigger and bigger interested and motivated base.
Yeah.
So there's no issue with the subject matter of your pre-recorded videos. Like none of that's wrong. Like you could always develop it
Yeah.
more, but you don't feel lost at all.
No, like I think I pretty well hit what my niche is. It's just trying to keep it fresh, and trying to improve it always, so that people are gonna want to come back and you're gonna capture new subscribers and things. So yeah, I just feel more comfortable with it, and it's really just all in the analytics that sort of prove what I'm doing right, what I'm not doing right.
People are watching it, you're retaining them.
Yeah. For example, John Malin, I'll use him as an example again.
Sure.
His channel has, I want to say like 300 or between 200 and 300 more subscribers than I have. So we're pretty close. And so you could compare our analytics a little bit. John Malin historically has done live streams almost exclusively. His live streams always seem to have anywhere between 100 to 250, 300 viewers, and that's like any given live stream. My live streams, especially as of late, I don't know, it's been a little bit hard, but I'll do live streams and I'll get anywhere from 25 on the low end to, on a really good day, 80 people.
But you know what it is this is one of the things I've been thinking about too. And I started off publishing, when I've been publishing everything up until College of the Dead, and I really have published like 1,000 comics. I don't even know all the comics I've published. But the point is, it's so incredibly different than publishing comics for comic book stores than to publish them direct to consumer promoted through YouTube.
Yeah.
It's incredibly different.
Yeah.
And it's incredibly rewarding. It's a lot of fun. It's really interesting. You meet a lot of very cool people who, like I was saying earlier, they support us. You can't even describe how amazing it is, and how many incredible people you meet, and what the opportunities are. Like Aaron Alfecci is saying hi to me in the chat. Hey, Aaron.
Hey,
Aaron is a phenomenal artist. He's drawing Jawbreaker's God King right now, and actually, truthfully, I think he's on to the next issue. But he and I have a little bit of a friendship, and that's an amazing thing. He's an incredibly talented artist. If he ever has downtime, I want to steal him for a cover or something like that, if he's permitted, if it's within his contracts and things like that, because the guy's, a genius and he's amazing. And the truth of it is he probably knows some other amazing artists as well that maybe aren't into Comicsgate yet. So the opportunities are amazing, but the dynamics are crazy. So I was
Yeah.
working on College of the Dead. It is at the printers. We are just finalizing the files on one cover now, making a couple of edits, and it's going to be ready to print and ship incredibly soon. So I will update people on that. But the point of it is like normally I would be planning out a schedule of a lot more titles that I want to produce. But right now, even though we are finishing a bunch of titles, I'm not rushing to publish because I'm really focused on, okay, well, there are all these other cool publishers that I want to support, and I want to get deeper and more involved in the community, and also show the Comicsgate community what I'm capable of doing, because the only way you can show people what you can do is just by doing it. And like when John Malin, for example, talk about Malin is a great guy, mentioned last week that his live streaming got suspended. He was saying, hey, I had 4 people that need shows to help get promoted. And he tweeted it out, and I, a bunch of us messaged, but I messaged back immediately, like, I will have all 4 of those guys on immediately, no problem.
Yeah.
And within like, I think it was 2 days or maybe 3 days, I had shows on all 4 of those guys, plus a couple of others.
Yeah.
And then Malin has helped me a little bit since and done a little promo on my channel since, which was great. But in terms of figuring out, like, what are we supposed to really be accomplishing with YouTube with respect to what we're doing as creators, I think what it comes down to is YouTube makes sense at different times for different things. I think that it's important for us as we're on our way up to be supporting other people, and for other people to see we're supporting other people. And live streams talking about their people with their projects seems to be really crucial. Not talking about crucial for the community, and so maybe not crucial for you or me for building a channel, but crucial for the community, which is also really good for us as well. It's not just about being a good neighbor, but just knowing, like, I have a list of, you're on it actually. I have a list of about 35 channels that are YouTube comics-based channels. I think they're all pretty much Comicsgate or nearly Comicsgate. And I've been sharing it with people, especially after I do an interview with them, as a way to just help them. Because I knew when I first got into this, you were generous and had me on your channel. But a lot of people don't, like, they're not familiar with being on channels. They don't know who they can be on. And, Ethan is interested in helping people, but, he'll say, like, well, try to be on a small channel first, which does make a lot of sense, because then you get a little familiar with being on a channel before, like, and even your channel has now become kind of a bigger channel. It's not a tiny channel. So I'd like to, people should go on my channel, show what they can do first. And then when you don't always have guests on like that, but the point is, you'd like to know that you're going to have a capable guest, that it isn't their first show.
Yeah, and this is part of the struggle I've had with trying to figure out live streams, is that there's so many people that want their projects promoted, and I get it. And I've been really, really vocal about promoting people and telling people that it's exactly what they should do. So the problem is there has to be a better way to do it than I've been doing it. I think other people do it better than me, and I'm trying to figure it out a little bit and put some thought into it.
I think we just need a little bit of a structure, honestly. I think that people should earn their way up. If there's someone that comes in from the blue, and it's like, there's a guy we've all been talking about, the Mary Boys Project, Carl from the UK. He has a very unique kind of special project, and he's an indie comics guy, like a slave labor Fantagraphics kind of guy, if you know those companies. And he's in Comicsgate. He really believes in Comicsgate. He's got a lot of stories about being treated where they were trying to change his comics and stuff to be published by another major publisher, and he just kind of walked away from it and had to go on his own. And he's like so thrilled to have found a place that he'd be accepted. But he's unique, and he also represents a whole other community. So there may be some guys that just stand out because they have something that's really unique. But for everyone else, everyone should be earning their way up, I think. Like, I'm working as hard as I can, and it's being appreciated. I'm not complaining.
Yeah. So this is a really big thing for me. And that is, like, if people talk about gatekeepers a lot, I guess I have a different definition of what gatekeeping is, but I'll tell you, when I go onto Indiegogo, or I'm looking on Twitter, and I do all the time, and I see a campaign pop up that catches my interest and I look at it and I'm like, I want that book, I'm so much better at promoting that book because I genuinely want it and I believe in it. And I'm thinking of like the Grom campaign.
I just had him on.
Gilbert, yeah. His book looked right up my alley, something that just personally interested me. And so I've been really vocal about promoting him. I wanted to
Great.
get him on the channel. And so I did promote him a few times.
Did you get Gilbert on yet?
I did, yeah.
Oh, great.
Yeah. So,
I'm like, Gilbert, are you in sales? And he's like, no, and I'm just really passionate about my book. And he's like, he really is. He's fantastic.
Yeah.
He's a great guest. He has a lot of energy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and you can tell he's put a lot of work into what he does. But yeah, but that's a great example because it illustrates that it's not that I want everyone to succeed, but if I look at books and I am able to pick the ones that I in love with, then it's gonna be a better sell to my audience. And so almost I think what I'd like to do is start like some kind of hashtag or something, and I could go through and pick which campaigns do I want to promote this month, rather than promoting 24 campaigns in a single month. I'd rather pick out 4 campaigns.
I think there's so many ways that we can do it intelligently.
Yeah.
One of the ways, not that what you said is not intelligent, such as you said, intelligently, as you were saying, and even in other ways, I should describe it that way.
Absolutely.
For example, Tanpa. I don't know. He's his Twitter handle. He's what R2D2 Sean.
Yes, yeah, I do know.
He retweets like R2D2 Sean. So I was talking to Tampa the other day, and I'm like, I'm trying to like focus on how can I help. So one of the things I do pretty well is organize, and very few people like to clean up messes or like organize. So I like to organize. So I'm like, all right, I need a spreadsheet so I can look at who I want to promote and who needs the promotion. And I get in touch with Tampa, and I'll share you this spreadsheet. I think he said it's okay for me to share. He's got a lit. So he's the guy one of the guys that retweets like, oh, back this campaign and this campaign and back that campaign. Like the other guys like out doing promo for comics. And he's got an incredibly detailed spreadsheet already.
Yeah.
Campaign, like the goal of the campaign, whether or not it met its goal currently, if it's in demand, how many days left, the date that it's ending on. He's got like this gigantic spreadsheet that he already updates.
Yeah.
So, which is sort of like, well, of course he does. So rather than recreate that, I should just give that like to you and everyone else who's running a major channel, as long as he doesn't mind. I asked him permission. I think he said yes.
Yeah.
Oh, Aaron, he is. Nice. Tampa's a hero. He's a great, great person. Yeah. And he's been giving me feedback on my channel. I've been taking it. And he's a fantastic, fantastic guy. Aaron, maybe we do a piece of art for Tampa. We'll think about it, brother. We'll think about it. But in any case, we should be sharing that information so that we don't have like, it's fine to, there's nothing wrong with whatever catches your eye in Indiegogo, but we might also look at like, all right, well, what are other formats that maybe we could do for a live stream that are successful format and meaningful to our niche community, right? Yeah. So launch party, you see people do like a launch party for campaigns. So maybe you'd consider doing a launch party once a month. Maybe you'd consider doing, and I don't know the appropriate number of times, but maybe you'd consider, sometimes Ethan takes 3 hours to do a live stream when a project's ending.
Right.
And not everybody has access to Ethan, and not and not Ethan's not available, obviously, to do everybody's project.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's,
because that's significant for the whole community, right? If we're helping, like Kyle is ending Starblades tomorrow.
Right.
Now,
right.
I don't know if he's going to be on Ethan or exactly what's going to happen. I know I put the word out that if I'm needed, I'm available for any amount of time, that day, because it's Kyle, and Kyle is our adopted, beloved Rainbow Brute looking guy or whatever. We love him. So anything we can do for him, we're doing. I am, at least. I can't speak for you, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So that's just Kyle, but then there's other people too that need us. There's a guy, so launch parties are things that we could do as a format, as a live stream. That makes sense, doesn't it? Because we could get people together.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, within reason. For me, okay, so now I'm just speaking
Yeah, no, just you're
totally
just
from
we're
a
casually talking.
yeah,
Practic
from
from a
yeah,
practical sense, because the idea is
right,
helping people. We should be helping people with our largesse and with hard
yeah,
work, not with destroying ourselves.
right. Well, and so that's something I've thought about too is like you're gonna get a lot more from being on my stream to promote your book when you've already done some legwork ahead of time. So if I've thought about this too, I don't know that I want to go this far, but it's like, do you have a mailing list of 100 people? Can you find 100 people that have at least said they have some interest in your comic when you launch on day one? You know, um, I there's no way, and I think I've disappointed enough people that they know like when they get on my stream, it's not gonna fund their campaign. Like just in and of itself, it's not enough.
Like just being on one show one time, and I'll
Yeah,
tell you that too, guys. Is just being on Ethan Van Sciver's show as part of Comicsgate Live
yeah,
3 or 4 times. That's not going to fund your comic,
yeah,
even if you're the coolest comic in the world. You know, if you want to watch someone, watch. I always bring him up, Von Klaus from Monster MD,
yeah,
because not only is Von, charming and he's got a cool concept, he's working like a effing animal.
yeah,
He's working incredibly hard promoting the hell out of his stuff. And the thing is, when you have Vaughn on, he's going to add viewers to your channel because there are people that are interested in him. Like, oh, Vaughn's on your show, or you're going to have on. He was on my channel earlier, and it was one of the best viewed things.
oh yeah,
And he's smart with writing and whatnot, and he's working really hard on Monster MD. So it's sort of like we can't all have perfect examples, and
right.
College of the Dead's not a gigantic book, but you, as you're saying, people should have a mailing list. Now, you had a mailing list early on when you're doing Downcast, but you also had a sign up page, or was your sign up page from Indiegogo redirecting to your mailing list?
That was a Mailchimp landing page, and
Okay.
so yeah, that was all built in Mailchimp, and Mailchimp's where I house the whole mailing list. And it's not a huge mailing list, and so the YouTube channel, it's one example of what worked. It works for me. I'm going to keep doing it. And that's how you funnel people into your mailing list, and it's hard to get people to join a mailing list. So I know that's rough. I wish my mailing list was 3 times bigger than it is, but it's something, And so I don't know. I've seen people be successful on Instagram, or there's other platforms for sure. I don't know. I don't know enough about it to work it out, but there any way that you can get to sort of talk to enough people regularly that you can suggest that they join your mailing list and you're talking about your comic. That's all really important. And so, yeah, if YouTube's the route for you, it helps if you're Vaughn's a good example. He's just charismatic. He's entertaining to listen to. I love streaming with him.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not as charismatic as Vaughn is,
No,
naturally.
you're
But I
not.
can,
You're cool. You're cool.
but I can be useful. You know what I mean? And so you kind of just find what works for you and go with it, because you
Keep
can't.
doing it.
Yeah, you can't change. You know what I mean? You got your toolbox, so you figure out what works for you and just hit that angle.
Now, speaking of some other just practical, bare bones things here, like you do have you have cool images for your videos.
Yeah,
You have cool cards. So, what are you doing? What are you using to put those together?
those are all Photoshop, and
Okay.
that I know there are other programs that might be easier if you haven't used Photoshop. I've used Photoshop for years, so to
Okay.
me that was just an easy go-to.
So you're essentially grabbing stock photos and
Yeah, stock
putting
photos,
text on
make them silly. The text on the thumbnails themselves is great. I'm going to
them.
try and do that much more. My videos, once I started doing that, they just get better views. So you want it to be as much, just as interesting as you can. And sometimes you can do some really silly stuff. Another thing with thumbnails that's interesting, I learned, is you want to see what other people are doing and try to do something different. And that could change from week to week or even day to day sometimes.
When you say different in terms of format.
Yeah, like so you'll see here, I go through waves of, like, I've got 2 on here. I've got some live streams up, so those look different, but I've got the bright colored backgrounds. if I keep doing bright colored backgrounds, they end up losing their ability, you know what I mean, their pull. And so I'll actually switch and just do plain white backgrounds or black backgrounds, or Photoshop. Like you see that one, the video on the bottom right that says ruining the hobby.
Yeah.
I
Oh, wow.
just Photoshop the eyes so they look bigger. You can have a lot of fun with it and just make it
Oh, wow.
nonsense. And that it actually helps. So I'll alternate between doing really colorful thumbnails to doing more plain looking thumbnails. And they don't, it doesn't always work, but you do your best. So
Yeah, they are interesting looking. How much time do you spend on a thumbnail?
a lot less time now than I used to. I forced myself not to just do a quick one. I have to stop and look at it. And this is important. Force yourself to look at it, or at least you save it as a JPEG. The way I do it, I save it as a JPEG and it's saved with all my other thumbnails so I can see them all together. And if that new thumbnail I made, if I can't instantly see where it's at, it's not a very good thumbnail. So I force myself to stop and look at it and ask myself, is this good enough? Does this sound interesting and make me want to click on it? And yeah, most of the time you get a good feeling and, like, okay, I think this will work. There've been a few times I've been surprised where I think it's going to work and it just doesn't. And so, yeah, like that one, the fake tweets one that's really white and a woman's face in the corner, that one did not do so well compared to my other videos. And maybe it was too plain.
Well, it's interesting to look. You are pretty successful with this because, I mean, you have 4,474 subscribers, approximately 4,400 subscribers, and a lot of these have a good percentage of views.
Yeah.
I mean, to have 50%, I mean, your goal would be, what would you consider to be like, all right, I did okay, not great, but okay on a video, would be half, 50,
Well,
half is pretty high.
Yeah, it's moving up. It used to be like if I get 1,000 views on a video, then I know it's great. Now 1,000 views is actually toward my low end, and my streams just they like rarely even get 1,000. So that kind of shows you where I want to be. So I'm trying to aim for 2,000 views within the first 24 hours. That's like my new benchmark for success. And it's less about the subscriber number, how many people are subscribing, and more about how much interaction you have. So I don't really care that much. It's nice, the subscriber number, everybody looks at it. But what I care more about is how many views do I have that are in the thousands or in the 10,000s. And I want to move that number up for sure. But yeah, when we get to that, I'm trying to see where that video I did on,
further down,
past it, but I have one, it's like 25,000. I think that's like my biggest.
Yeah, that's the one about boys.
Yeah. I can't even remember what the thumbnail
We need
looks
boys.
like.
Here it is, 22,000.
That's it. 22,000. Yep, that's it.
Okay.
So yeah, that's phenomenal. I wish every video had that many views. And the funny thing is, compared to most YouTube channels, that's not really that many views. But if you're trying to sell comics, you can actually really optimize that. If I'm talking to 1,000 people every day or 2,000, how many people do you need to back a campaign?
So everybody that's thinking about making a YouTube channel or currently makes a YouTube channel, I just made a point to say this because I think I watched half of this, but never all of it. But it's a good point. Like, obviously, Sweetcast channel is in the world of my channels as well. Why would I not be reading? Why would I not be watching his most successful video? No matter how busy you are, your success and your analytics on your channel are important, but other analytics and other successes on other people's channels, obviously that are related channels, are important as well.
Yeah.
It's something we should be watching for.
Yeah, I do that all the time. I know how many subscribers John Malin has. I know how many subscribers Mike Miller has. You know what I mean?
How many does Miller have?
He's got more. He's got like 6,700, I think, is where he's at right now. Okay. And then again, the subscribers don't matter as much. It just helps
the views.
The views. So it does give me an idea, though. Like, what kind of range I'm in, and so I'm right up there, pulling up to the John Malin range. We're pretty close on subscriber counts,
And it makes sense if you think about it. I don't know where you guys are in comparison of views, but in terms of what I watch a John Malin video, what I watch a Sweetcast video, it's pretty equivalent. Wouldn't?
Yeah, and for him, I don't know. As me watching John Malin,
This is great. Yeah, these are really clever, man. Rob Liefeld strikes again. This time at DC Comics, is headed for the back of the convention.
Yeah, and faces too.
Yeah,
you want
she's crying.
You have faces and emotion, and people like that. But
so something like this takes you like 10 minutes to do.
If that, it's most of the time probably closer to 5 minutes.
That's great.
Yeah, so it's not bad. I already have the template that it's the correct size, and then I've got my logo in the bottom corner.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just pop some stuff in there and play around with Photoshop a little bit and see, is this interesting enough that I'd want to click on it? Yeah. So I know how to do it, but it's still a grind, and I want to get up there to 10,000 subscribers and 20,000. But yeah, so I got to up my game and figure out how to keep reading.
Well, now another thing that may be kind of next for you, next for me as well, is we start to figure out, all right, who can we grow with? One of the things that Ethan did that was so great, at least as much of it as I remember, was he really did start to go on other channels and cooperate with other channels. Like he does the Fandom Menace. And I don't know how that's different from the High Council, to be honest.
Yeah.
But it's groups of other channels to discuss the genre. Like I could see you, and I see Peter's been on your channel a lot of times.
Yeah.
And so you guys can talk about, comics and the goodness of comics. And
yeah. You definitely want to.
But you don't go on Peter's channel, really, do you?
I've been on his channel a few times, probably like 3 or 4 times, I think.
Okay.
He does a lot of streaming on Friday nights, which are not usually good for me.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we stream. I've got a good relationship with Peter. But yeah, it's one of those things that you kind of have to give and take. Everybody always wants to be on the channels that are bigger than them, and they're the smallest fish in the pond. But that doesn't always work because it's kind of like, what have you done for me lately?
Yeah, well, it's got to be like a mutually beneficial. It's got to make sense. Now we agreed to do about an hour tonight, and I don't want to be a keep you late kind of guy.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Of course. So in the 5 minutes roughly that we have left, what would you want to focus on to just kind of impart more information on the YouTube phenomenon? We were just talking now about cross-pollinating and trying to go with some people that might be a little bigger than you, but maybe they need you. Like you could see, like, look at their channel, look at it makes sense for them. So if it's a similar genre, we're in comics, so maybe it's someone else who does, another version of Geeks and Gamers or whatever the heck, where you guys could have some fun, and they categorically you could talk comics and trends in comics, and it would help. That content would help them if they were a little bit bigger, but also look towards who can you help that's a little smaller than you, right?
Yeah.
Even let's say even with like a you to me type of thing, like I have 200 subs right now. It's like, well, Adam, you'd be useful in this way and that way, or right now you wouldn't be useful with it, but whatever it is, like whoever could be, useful to what you might try to do.
You know what? This sounds silly, but it's true. How I mentioned from the beginning, if you make videos about other people in your niche, it helps your channel. It actually, I think that's how Ethan started watching my videos. I made a video about him.
Yeah, if you're talking about him, then obviously he's got to.
They watch those things, and so I see when people make videos about me, and it's like, should I watch it? Should I not? People disagree with me sometimes. Most of the time, people are super friendly, but I don't mind disagreement at all. But when you're making content that is referring people to me and my channel, that actually is really nice. Even if your channel is small, because it shows up in search results, it's another source. It's not just me talking about my book.
This is another fantastic session with you, Clint, because it's not something that I even had thought of. So let's assume we were targeting you specifically, and there are people listening that make channels. How could we make and don't worry about it seeming funny, but how could we make videos that would refer people to your channel? Is it just talking about Sweetcast and
you'd want to find your own angle on it for sure.
like you've heard my angle talk about, you're like, you're
Yeah.
the one guy, the one perfect student of Comicsgate. That's my take right there, and I'll explain it.
Well, so you gotta see something. You could do a reaction video. That's a good one. Someone just recently did a reaction video of one of my videos, and it was great. And they said the title was something like "Sweetcast is wrong about da da da," and he had only one minor disagreement with semantics, and everything else, he had his own insight, but it wasn't at all, like a mean video or anything like that. He had a clickbait kind of title. It talked about my content, and so when I see that, it's actually, I like it. You know what I mean? If someone's making fun of me all the time, whatever, I can't do anything about that. But yeah, if you want to do something,
you're starting a conversation with the person that way.
Yeah, and
if you're commenting on their work,
right, and they might not come talk to you. You know what I mean? Like, it might not do anything. But if you have a smaller channel and someone bigger is helping you out, and you're like, well, what can I do in return? I'm just a small channel. Making a video, and saying like, oh, Downcast, here's my unique perspective on Sweetcast's book, and make it sound like there's some conflict, you can disagree or whatever, make there be, just your interesting take on it, use all those principles with the thumbnail and everything. And you talk about my book, and, and at least, it doesn't necessarily have to just be positive.
At least fair, fair way.
In a fair way. Exactly. You do that, then that does actually help my profile. I grow a bigger footprint. So there is actually stuff you can do that makes it feel like you're helping bigger channels. And that's just one of those things.
That's excellent. And there's one other thing I'll add that I started doing, and I'm surprised why people don't do this, but when I appear on other people's channels, and I've been fortunate to be on, Ethan Van Sciver's channel and Antonio Bryce's channel and John Malin's channel, and all three of them said yes when I asked, could I replay your video on my channel? Would that be all right with you? And you do, and they said yes, and you do get views from that. And it's also, it's nice for people to remember your association with a bigger person that's had you as a guest. Yeah. And that's, to me, I always tell people if they want to repost the video or link to the video, at least at my level, I'm always agreeable to it. And I've also found that this is another thing you guys can think about doing. We had first guy I think I suggested it to was Replicator, who Aaron Alfecci, who was in the chat before, did the art for one of those books, and he did it as an update on his campaign, because I was just focused on his book for 45 minutes. We talked about Replicator and his experience with comics, and it was just really like a great treatment of a great timeless treatment of that one project. That's what I try to do when I do Comicsgate Tonight, and then people have that to use that they can share with backers or potential backers, and that's one of the things you can do with formats too. Like so what I'm doing is similar to Comicsgate Presents that John Malin's doing, except I really, except for one case, really try to keep it to one project at a time. So Clint, we can definitely discuss this again. We can try to also maybe see if we can get Peter on too and get his take. I've spent some time on his channel. It's just, once you get involved in one channel, even when when you're making your own channel too, it does get very time consuming very quickly to keep up with all the content, because we're all producing like a couple hours a day, it seems like, worth of content. Well, Clint, thank you so much. Guys, Clint's book is Downcast. It's available for a short amount of time. It really, the in-demand is going to be closing soon. Yeah. And it's going to be shipping frighteningly soon. Yeah. Very soon.
A lot sooner than the campaign says. I don't want to make any promises, but the campaign it should be ending by the end of the month. We're going to close the in-demand store. And then, we're going to have, the interior art pages are like where are we at? Almost 80% finished. Like we're really getting close here. And
80% of like I think it's roughly 50 sequential pages.
52 pages. Yeah.
52 pages.
We got 10 pages left to do. And the artist, Nacho, he's cleared out his schedule from some other projects that he was working on, and so right now it's just Downcast. So he's been turning in basically a page a day. So
that's fantastic.
Yeah, so we're really going to close that down soon, and then we'll immediately start with making sure everything's ready. And I'm hoping to be able to send it to the printer in October, early to mid October, and then obviously we'll start fulfilling as soon as we get the books. So
if you're one of those few people that haven't backed Downcast, or if you want to back Downcast again, not the worst thing in the world. Take a look at those prints. Take a look at Downcast again and see if there's anything new that you'd missed. It's a very, very cool project. I backed it and was happy and proud to. And I am still have my campaign in demand, College of the Dead. We're going to definitely be shipping in October. The printer is finalizing the file for the comic right now. 2 of the other books related to it are completely done. All the interiors are done. Everything's finished. We're just making one change. We're adding an 1/8 of an inch somewhere, whatever it is that the guy that he needs for setup. But as you always find, there's always one extra thing to do to make things absolutely perfect. But in any event, College of the Dead, the link's in the description. It's a zombie apocalypse book. I'm super passionate about it. I'm really excited to get it out. It is going to be the best zombie story you ever read. So check that out as well. Clint, you have a great night. Everybody in the chat, Captain, thank you for being the first man in. You are super appreciated. Mr. Yanafui, your memes are incredible, and you've been a good personal friend to me as well, and I appreciate you. Adam Post, you're a great-looking guy there in the chat. It's always great to see your face every morning. Brad, wait a minute, that's me. All right, that's a little inappropriate. Brad, you are really fun, and yeah, Sweetcast is fun. You said so. And I just like to thank and appreciate all of you. Scott, you door-kicking kind of man, you're great. And thank you, Scott, for everything you do for everybody else, too. You're always out there retweeting people, and you're always great being with when I just saw you the other night on Clint's, and you were great there. And Tatsu Nasu, it's a very interesting name that you have there. And there's thousands of subs that you're referencing. I don't know what that means, but it's great to have you. Aaron, you're an amazing artist. I'm going to steal you to do something sometime. Tomba is a hero, as you said before, no question about it. And Theron and everybody else, really, really appreciate you all. Sorry if I forgot anyone. But again, thank you so much. And we really have to thank Clint for being so generous with his time and giving us some of his secrets as well.
No
Thank
problem.
you, Clint. We really appreciate you. Everybody have a terrific night.
Great.
Don't forget to back Downcast. Damn you.